My manager told me to stop wasting time helping customers, so I did exactly what he asked. And it ended up costing the store almost $40,000 in a single weekend. Honestly, the craziest part is that none of this would have happened if he had just left me alone. At the time, I was 27 years old and working at a large electronics store. Not a tiny local place. One of those giant chain stores where management constantly obsesses over sales numbers, memberships, protection plans, and customer surveys. I worked in the computer department, and unlike most of my coworkers, I actually liked helping people. A lot of customers walking into electronics stores are overwhelmed, especially older people. They do not know the difference between processors, storage, graphics cards, or operating systems, so I always tried to explain things in simple terms. Apparently this became a problem. Not for customers, for management. Specifically my department manager, Todd. Todd was one of those managers who treated every interaction like a military operation despite managing a retail electronics store. Everything had to happen his way. If you spent too long helping someone, problem. If you were not aggressively pushing memberships, problem. If you failed to upsell warranties, problem. The weird thing was, customers actually loved me. I consistently had the highest survey scores in the department. People would come back asking for me specifically. I even had regular customers. But Todd hated that my sales numbers were sometimes lower than the more aggressive employees. Because while they rushed people into expensive purchases, I spent time actually explaining things. One afternoon, an older couple came in looking for a laptop. Nothing unusual. They explained they mainly needed it for email, video calls, and paying bills online. Very basic stuff. Now technically, I could have sold them a $1,400 gaming laptop like some employees probably would have tried to do. Instead, I showed them a reliable mid-range model for about $500. They were incredibly grateful. The husband actually said, "Thank you for not trying to scam us." Apparently they had already visited another electronics store where someone tried convincing them they needed some ridiculous high-end setup just to use Facebook. I spent maybe 20 minutes helping them. They left happy. Then Todd pulled me into the office, and this man looked genuinely irritated. He asked why I wasted half an hour on a low-profit customer. I honestly thought he was joking. Then he started lecturing me about maximizing efficiency. According to Todd, employees should prioritize high-value customers, quick transactions, and upsells, not babysitting confused shoppers. That phrase immediately irritated me because these were real people spending real money, not obstacles, but Todd kept going. Then he said the sentence that started this entire disaster. He told me, "If customers do not know what they want, give them the basics and move on. Stop wasting time trying to educate everybody." I asked, "So you want shorter interactions?" He said, "Exactly." I asked, "Even if customers leave confused?" And Todd literally shrugged and said, "That is not our problem after checkout." The second he said that, something in my brain clicked, because Todd was technically my boss. And if he wanted fast interactions instead of detailed customer help, that was exactly what he was going to get. So the next day, I completely changed how I worked. Customer asks, "What laptop is best for me?" I respond, "This one is popular." That is it. No detailed explanations, no recommendations, no helping compare products, no warnings about compatibility. Nothing. Another customer asked if a desktop computer came with Microsoft Office installed. Normally, I would explain subscription options. Instead, I just said, "No," and walked away. A woman asked whether a printer worked wirelessly. I simply pointed at the box and said, "The information should be there." The difference was immediate. My interactions became insanely fast. Todd loved it for about 2 days. Then the returns started. At first, it was small things. People buying incompatible accessories. Customers purchasing laptops that did not fit their needs. Someone bought a desktop monitor, assuming it was an actual computer. Another customer purchased a gaming computer for business spreadsheets because nobody explained the difference. Normally, I would have prevented all of these issues. But hey, management wanted efficiency. Then came the disaster weekend. It started Saturday morning when a local business owner came in needing new computers for his small accounting office. This was potentially a huge sale. Probably around $15,000 to $20,000 total. Now normally, I would have sat down with him, discussed his software needs, storage requirements, networking compatibility, backup solutions, the whole process. Instead, I gave him exactly what Todd instructed. Quick answers, minimal explanation. The business owner pointed at one of the premium all-in-one computers and asked, Would these work well for accounting software? Now here is the important part. Those machines looked powerful, but they were absolutely terrible for his intended setup because they had limited upgrade options and compatibility problems with some accounting peripherals. Normally, I would have explained all of that. Instead, I simply said, lots of people buy those. He nodded and purchased 12 of them, along with accessories, printers, monitors. The total sale ended up being enormous. Todd was thrilled. He literally congratulated me in front of the team. He kept talking about how I was finally learning how to sell properly. I just smiled and said, thanks for the guidance. Then Monday happened. Apparently, the accounting office spent the entire weekend trying to set everything up before realizing the systems were incompatible with several critical devices they use daily. Receipt scanners, specialized printers, some tax software configurations. The business owner was furious. And honestly, he had every right to be, because he specifically asked if the computers would work for his business setup. Now here is where everything exploded. The customer returned all 12 computers, along with every accessory. And because the boxes had already been opened and configured, the store could no longer sell most of them as new. The total loss was massive, but it got even worse. Because during the return process, the business owner loudly explained exactly what happened in front of customers, employees, and upper management. And unfortunately for Todd, multiple employees confirmed that I used to spend time carefully helping customers before being ordered to stop. Suddenly, district management got involved, and apparently Todd, in his infinite wisdom, had been sending emails for weeks complaining that employees spent too much time educating customers instead of selling. Meaning, there was now written proof. I will never forget the meeting they called afterward. District management asked me directly, "Why didn't you explain compatibility issues to the customer?" And I answered honestly. I said, because Todd instructed me to stop spending excessive time educating customers and to focus on fast transactions. Todd immediately tried interrupting, saying, "That is not what I meant." But thankfully, one of my coworkers spoke up and said, "That is literally exactly what you said." Then another employee backed him up. Then another. And suddenly Todd looked terrified, because the entire department knew he had been pushing this speed over service nonsense for months. District management looked absolutely furious. Not at me, at Todd, and honestly, that should have been the end of it. But somehow Todd still made things worse. Because instead of admitting fault, he tried blaming me. He claimed I should have used common sense. That argument lasted about 30 seconds before district management pointed out something very obvious. If I had ignored his instructions and continued helping customers properly, he would have written me up for insubordination. Todd had absolutely no response to that. About a week later, Todd quietly disappeared from the schedule. No goodbye, no announcement. Just gone. Officially, they said he pursued other opportunities, which in retail management language usually means you got fired. The funniest part? After Todd left, the store completely reversed course. Suddenly, customer education became extremely important again. Managers encouraged detailed consultations. We were told to spend more time with customers. And somehow, the exact thing Todd criticized me for became company policy again almost overnight. Even better, the business owner actually came back a month later. This time, I personally helped him choose the correct systems for his office. He ended up thanking me for being honest and patient. And after everything was finally installed properly, he left a glowing corporate review mentioning me by name. So in the end, Todd basically destroyed his own career because he cared more about speed metrics than actual customer service. And honestly, I do not even feel bad about it. Because if you are going to micromanage employees, you should probably be very careful what instructions you give them, especially when they decide to follow those instructions exactly.